What's happening, everybody, and welcome back to the Funky Brain Podcast. My name is Dennis, and this is my funky brain up here. Our guest today is going to blow you away with his story of strength and hope, not only surviving cancer, but kicking its ass and competing in CrossFit competitions along the way. Oh, and he also never missed a deadline at work and has a stunning sense of humor the whole time, or most of the time, too. He's a martial arts champion, a journalist, a music connoisseur extraordinaire, Mr. Adam Bernard. How are you doing today, sir?
Hey, thank you so much for having me on the show. And I know a lot of authors have their office set up so they have their book showing. I don't, so I will hold these up for a couple minutes. By the way, I just also realized this isn't just a visual podcast, so this is doing nothing to anyone who's just streaming the show as a podcast. But my book here is Chembro, Embracing Beastmode to Beat Cancer, and you can find it anywhere books are sold.
Tell us the story and what ultimately inspired you to write this book.
The journey started in January of 2017, and it started as another journey altogether. I've been in the martial arts for the vast majority of my life since I was 7 years old, 7.5 years old. So January 2017, my instructors tell me they feel I'm ready to test for 5th degree black belt, which is mastery level in Chemo. And this is great. I start training hard. They tell you 6 months in advance before the test, because while they feel you're ready, they also know you need to still be in test shape at that point, because the tests are very, very long, 4+ hours. A lot of effort goes into those. So you get 6 months to basically ramp yourself up. And a couple weeks after that was when I went to the doctor, because I had felt a pain in my groin area that was so bad, I literally dropped to one knee in the middle of my kitchen. I was like, something's wrong here. This seems like it's worse than a normal groin pull or a strain. But because I'm an idiot, I said, you know what? I can work through this. It's just a pull. It's just a strain. Whatever. Push forward. But that was the thing where I was like, maybe I should also call a doctor just to get it checked out just in case. So I was 37, 38 years old around that time. I think a lot of us, if we don't get sick, have a bit of an invincibility complex. And I definitely had one, and I still have one. I mean, listen, I kind of joke in the book, like if I had one before, what do you think I'm going to have after beating cancer? A number of weeks later, I saw a doctor, because when you're a first-time patient seeing somebody, they kind of just fit you in when they can fit you in. And that entire 3+ hour appointment is in the book. Incidentally, if you ever go to the doctor and you're there for 3 hours, it's not good. You should realize that when the doctor says, you need blood tests and an ultrasound, and you say when, and they say right now, that's a sign things aren't going well. So that's when I found out I had cancer. I needed to get immediate CAT scan within the next few days. Then I need to get the surgery the start of next week. It was just we're getting this done. Even despite that, the cancer had spread to one of my lungs. So that's why I needed to then go through chemo. I didn't know I was going to have to go through chemo. It's I got the cancer removed, the cancerous testicle removed. I was working my way back. And then I was like, all right, now I got to apparently do chemo. And this book details how I was still training for my 5th degree black belt test, because I was like, you know what? Chemo was going to end about 3 weeks before the test. So I'm like, I'm still doing the test. I trained through that, and I trained at my CrossFit gym. My version of chemo was it's an aggressive kind of chemo. It was 3 rounds of 3 weeks, but one of those weeks each time was 5 days a week. So it was 5 days a week, 1 day a week, 1 day a week for 3 times. So I treated the infusion room like an office, basically. I brought my laptop, I hooked it in. I came first thing in the morning and just said, okay, this is where I'm working for the morning. I loved the nurses. The nurses were amazing. And another part of this book is finding the right doctors to work with. Not to sound crazy, new agey or anything. Not everyone's going to have the same energy you have. Not everyone is going to vibe the same way you vibe. And you need someone who speaks your language. You need someone who understands your specific goals. And you need someone who actually cares about you as a person, not just a patient and set of charts. I mean, my book details all these doctor's visits where I was just like, nope, not that one, not that guy, not that person, not that building.
Wow. And you never think about it from that angle, that your doctors need to line. I never thought of that. I never had to, thank God, but
Yeah. Hopefully you never will. But yeah, I turned it into more of an interview process, and I'm not sure the doctors even realized it. It was sort of like, I'm here. I think they automatically assumed like, oh, you're here. You're going to get your stuff done here. And it's like, no, I'm here to talk to you to find out if this is going to work between us. Because I knew chemo was going to be equivalent of a long-term relationship. Because not only was it the 9 weeks, I mean, I'm still going. This is 3 years later. I've been in remission for 3 years. I was just there Thursday because every 12 weeks I still get a blood test just to make sure that they're, where the tumor markers are, where the white blood cell count is. So this is it's going to end up a 5+ year relationship of seeing someone a lot. And you should not be seeing someone you're not comfortable with, that you don't like, that just seems like they're putting you through an assembly line almost. Like, all right, another patient done, another patient done. And I'll tell you, when I landed on my doctor, one of the things was, it was a great recommendation too, from another doctor. But the first thing he did when I sat down in his office was he asked me a question about my life. None of the others had done that. He literally, all he had to say, and it was great, he goes, hey, what do you do for a living? No one else asked. I had doctors literally say, oh, you can't go to work. I was like, you didn't even ask what I do for work. We say this out loud, asking a question, just being generally interested in a person. And someone would think it seems so simple, but if it was really simple, everyone would be able to do it. And it doesn't seem like everyone's able to do it or willing to do it, or PhD classes simply don't have enough communications in their program.
Yeah.
I feel like basic communication should be like one of the first thing all doctors learn after
And ethics, communications and ethics, right?
Yeah, those would both be helpful. The first surgery was rough. Both surgeries are rough. The first one, the incision was like right at the waistline. There's a chapter in the book where I discuss how being ruggedly independent wasn't the greatest thing in the world after that.
Right.
Yeah, being like, nope, I'm going to handle this all by myself. And like the first morning trying to get out of bed, I was like, oh, it's really hard to sit up with a giant gash on your waist. Within a couple days was already trying to like do workouts at home. I was told like, wait 2 weeks to go back to the gym. And I'm like, well, I'm not technically back at the gym if I'm doing it at home.
Right.
So
I see your pull-up bar in the back there.
Yeah, that was for, the pull-up bar was for when we had the lockdown.
Yeah.
And I couldn't go to the gym at all. And I will say, if anyone ever buys one, the kind that goes in the door frame will destroy your door frame. Because I will be calling a carpenter sometime when everything is over with to fix that. But you know what? Worth every penny, because a couple thousand pull-ups during quarantine was a lot better than not doing them.
Yeah, I have mine. I'm looking at mine right now. It's right over here on the other side of the room here.
Yeah, I mean, when you're stuck at home, it was incredibly helpful. And the weight vest is right there on the door as well.
Oh, yeah, look at that.
So we're running in that a lot.
Yeah, and then so keep carrying us through the process. So you got through the chemo stuff, and like you said, and I know it still carries you, or you're still feeling those carryover effects.
Well,
and
the chemo, it's funny because they tell you how they think it could affect you, and then there are other things that it actually does. I did have a friend who I give a huge shout out in this book to, who baked me baked goods. I will put it that way. Baked me baked goods that she said, take one and wait 30 minutes. And they were very, very effective at curing the nausea and helping me sleep well. Because while you are maybe not constantly tired, working out helps the fatigue. I know that seems counterintuitive because working out can make you tired, but I don't know what the science behind it. If it's endorphins, if it's adrenaline, whatever it is, it kept me going a little longer than I could have during the day.
When I'm coaching people, when we get to fitness or nutrition stuff, and I used to be a trainer too, people are always like, well, I don't have the energy to exercise. But that's a paradox, because when you exercise, you get more energy. It's just your body metabolizes more. It moves more. It takes care of you if you take care of it.
Exactly. So I was working out, and I finally found doctors who said, like, yes, please keep working out. And I mean, there were dietary shifts because there were certain food, like your taste buds change when you're on chemo, and they change really quickly. So you can go to the grocery store one day and then like 2 days later look in your fridge and just not want anything that's in there.
Right.
It's very difficult that way.
So let's fast forward a little bit. And what got you into writing this book?
While I was working out, one of the things I was dealing with is people using what I call the I word, inspiration or inspirational. And I was a little uncomfortable with it at first because I have always viewed myself as just like, I was just a guy who was refusing to give up. I was like, listen, I'm not doing anything special. I'm just continuing to live my life. I'm just treating cancer like an aggravation. And finally, one of my buddies turned to me, he's like, most people don't do that, right? Most people just sort of like not give up, but they allow their diagnosis to rule their life. And a bunch of people said, you need to write about this. You're a writer. I started writing. I outlined it because I'm very, very old school. I have a paper calendar that I write stuff down in so I could flip through it and see day by day what I was doing and what was going on. So I laid everything out. I wrote it all out, and I wrote everything that happened from the first pain through, yes, earning my 5th degree black belt less than 3 weeks after completing chemo. Then I had to get another surgery. The chemo cleared everything up cancer-wise, but a tumor was still sitting on my lung. So it went from being cancerous to non-cancerous, but it was still there. And after a couple CAT scans over the course of a few months, it was growing. And they're like, this is a gots to go situation. You need to get this cut out. And then I had to go through the whole thing again of finding people I wanted to work with and doing all that. And it was the one time I actually spent a night in the hospital. I didn't for the first surgery or for anything else. I have no idea how I remember any of it because they had me on some seriously strong painkillers. But I could tell you the layout of that hospital and that room. And the only thing I can't tell you is anything about the surgery because when the anesthesiologist did his job, he did it well. It was insane how quick it happened.
With this book, it's like, who are you trying to reach and what messages are you trying to get to them?
It's interesting because when I first wrote it, I was like, well, this is a book about cancer. And then I was reading it through. I was like, well, no, it's not. It's a book about finding a sort of warrior spirit inside yourself, no matter what you're facing. What I say is just because I had cancer doesn't mean I don't care when you have a cold. I don't sit there saying like, well, I had something worse. So this is for anyone who's going through anything. It could be physical, it could be mental, it could be emotional, and to just have the ability to look inside yourself. And I know it's really difficult at times, and I know some people can find it even more difficult, but to be able to look in the mirror and be like, I can do this, I can get over this. I also obviously want to preach the benefits of living a healthy lifestyle. I was told by every single doctor that I worked with, like the fact that I was working out, the fact that I ate right, played a huge role in how well I did in getting through surgeries and in getting through chemo and in recovery, that being healthy helps. Even in a situation where you feel a little ripped off because you led this healthy lifestyle, but still gotten cancer. It's like, I asked one doctor, I was like, dude, how? And he's just said, it's bad luck. Like, that's as simple as it is. It's bad luck. I'm like, all right. A few of my friends thought I was crazy, but most of them totally saw what I was doing and were all for it. Just the whole thing of saying, I'm going to get through this. It is just a hurdle. If you look at it like a mountain, you're going to have to climb a mountain. If you look at it as a tiny hurdle, you're going to jump over the tiny hurdle. It's totally, even something like cancer, even something like chemo, a large aspect of it is mental. And if you can just stop thinking of things as a mountain and just start thinking of even just small little hurdles. If you have a million little hurdles, you can just step over each one. If you view it as this giant mountain, you got to get some climbing equipment, and it's going to take you a while. One of the things I talk about in the book is also recognizing small accomplishments. I don't think we do that enough in our lives. I don't think that we celebrate the small stuff. I think we only tend to look at the big stuff, and we only tend to look at the negative stuff. I haven't done this, so can I do this? I don't know if I can do this. I mean, there were mornings where it's like, I got out of bed. That's huge. I brushed my teeth. That's great. I made breakfast. Okay, I've done a lot before 8 a.m. And then you kind of let that snowball. And you let, like, I have done things snowball and just keep doing them because you suddenly feel good about yourself. You don't feel like, oh, I can't get out of bed. You're like, no, I did. I got out of bed. I did that.
If you can go back to your 15-year-old self, what would you tell that guy?
First of all, I tell him going to school with girls is awesome. Don't worry about it because I went to an all-male high school. To an extent, us as young males between the ages of 13 and 17 should probably be sectioned off from society anyways. It's like you see us when we're 12 and see us again when we're grown up. But in between, we're awful. We're just, we're awful. We're figuring out our testosterone and all sorts of other stuff. 15-year-old me would have absolutely no idea that he'd grow up to be this in terms of just the total gym rat, being able to write for a living, going to music venues. Well, with the exception of this year, seeing like 100 bands a year and then, for work and things like that. I'm not sure 15-year-old me would believe that 40, almost 2-year-old me would have the large support system of friends that I currently do and that I'm extremely thankful for. And not to sound cliche, but just to remind the 15-year-old versions of ourselves, it gets better most of the time. Not all the time, but most of the time. Unless you peaked in high school, it's going to get better. And, just keep pushing forward and keep embracing all the weird stuff you enjoy, because it's going to end up super cool later in life, and you're going to find your tribe. I recall 15 was the era of USA Up All Night and trauma movies and some things that definitely made me a little bit different than everybody else. But embrace the difference, because the tribe is out there. You will find them, and you will love talking about the Toxic Avenger and Class of Nukem High.
I remember seeing that was like 35 years ago.
As the Godzilla poster is right above my shoulder for the most recent installment of the Japanese version of Godzilla.
Well, and I love what you said there too. I mean, this is stuff I talk about with my clients all the time. Keep being you. You can try to be somebody else, but let's go back to Buddha. Buddha said 3 things can't be hidden long: the sun, the moon, and the truth. So you have to continue to be you. And people that aren't being them are not generally very happy.
And making the path so much harder.
Yeah, you're always struggling to find out your purpose. Well, first of all, part of your purpose is to be you. And then the next piece is to give back, to be of service in any way possible. Somehow help somebody. A lot of times if we're sitting around and we're depressed or unhappy or angry or sad or whatever our, victim feeling that you were talking about earlier, whatever we're getting in, it's usually because we're thinking about ourselves too much. It's like if I'm in that state of mind and I could somehow get out of my brain and go help somebody, and sometimes that help is like buy them a house, and sometimes it's just smile at them. Sometimes it's big and sometimes it's minuscule, but you can change people's lives just with a smile. So what am I doing to help somebody else today? I find that gets me through the day better. Have you had that experience?
Yeah, and I'm definitely the early, I don't want to call them reviews, but the early reviews of the book, what people have told me is that they know it's going to help a lot of people. Whether someone has cancer or not, they just know it's going to help people power through things, to find that warrior spirit inside themselves, to be motivated. And there's another aspect of it of I was never, like I said, I had an invincibility complex. I'm also an only child who works for himself and lives by himself. So the sense of independence is very huge. I'm an emotional rock, and I don't mean that in a bad way. I mean that in just sort of like, I can handle anything that comes my way. But with this, I definitely learned it's okay to be vulnerable. It's okay to allow your friends and family to help you. Because for as much as we can help others, if they're not going to accept it in any way, shape, or form, it's no good.
Interesting.
So, yeah, there are times when you're going through something, and you know what? It's okay to talk to your friends and family about it. You're not being a burden. I think a lot of folks feel they're being a burden in some way, shape, or form if they're, confessing their problems. And I mean that like confessing them in a real way, not like making some extended Facebook post, which I think a lot of people do when they're not really going through something, but actually going through something. I mean, when I posted on Facebook the night I got my diagnosis, it was a long post, but it was also, as people will see in the book, it explained my stance on everything. And it was such a good idea because so many people, got behind me, lifted me up, made sure I was all right, which is really, really nice.
Yeah, that's powerful stuff. Yeah. Well, so tell us again, how can anybody get in touch with you, whether it's to just be in touch with you in general or buy your book or email you?
On the book, well, actually, in the about the author section of the book, it has my Twitter, which is at Adams World Blog. My website, where I do a lot of music journalism, is adamsworldblog.com. I've run that site for over 17 years. It started as a side project while I was freelancing, and it became something much, much bigger over the years. I'm stoked that my little place on the web where I do all the work over the past 10 years has over 1 million page views, which I find insane, but it's great. So people can find me there. There's contact info there. And yeah, at the very end of my bio, I don't know if you'll keep this in the in the podcast. At the very end of the bio, it says he is still waiting for Vanessa Hudgens to reply to one of his tweets. And I just want to say, as of the recording of this, I am still waiting for Vanessa Hudgens to reply to one of my tweets.
Well, maybe she'll run across the Funky Brain podcast and you'll get.
I mean, you never know. It's hopeful. And my friends joked with me so much at the start. And one of the things was one of my buddies was like, wow, Cancer, you really do just about anything to try to score free tickets to WrestleMania, wouldn't you? And another one was like, wow, you're really going all out to meet Vanessa Hudgens. It's just, so yeah, friends can help keep you light as well.
Maybe someday you'll get there. I think you will. You're going to meet her.
You never know. It's become a very long-standing point of humor for my friends and I that started with a tweet like 10 years ago and has expanded to all sorts of hilarity. But we're all having a good time. And if she's watching this, you're awesome.
Awesome, man. Well, Adam, thank you so much. Any closing arguments? Anything you wanted to say there?
No closing arguments. Now you have me thinking like my dad, who's a law professor. For anyone watching this, listen, I'd appreciate it a lot if you wanted to pick up Chembro, Embracing Beastmode to Beat Cancer. I'd appreciate it even more if you took the words to heart in that it is not just about me. It's about you. It's about everyone who's going to go through something, which is everybody, as we discussed. And to find the self-motivation, no matter how hard it is, no matter how low you feel, to know that look in the mirror and find the hero that's staring back at you, because when you get through it, you're going to look in the mirror and say, I did that. And it's going to feel fantastic. You are going to feel like a warrior, no matter what you got through, whether it was huge, whether it was small, whether it was self-inflicted. Sometimes we do stuff to ourselves that we have to get through. In the end of it, if you can look to yourself and motivate yourself, you will feel amazing. And you will look back on it and just think, yeah, I did that. I can do pretty much anything.
Thanks again, Adam. I appreciate you hanging out at the Funky Brain podcast. Go buy Adam's book on Amazon. I think that's the place to go. Chembro. Check it out. And you can get over your hurdles too. We'll talk to you soon. Have a great day today. Bye for now.
Did you know that as of June 2020, more than 36% of the adult Americans are clinically obese and another 33% are overweight? For those who are counting, that's nearly 70% of the adult American population who is overweight or obese. And that is a staggering number, wouldn't you agree? So how did this happen? Well, it's too much to explain in this little video, but it goes back to the Great Depression 90 years ago when we started making food and developed all kinds of preservatives and chemicals. And of course, the biggest culprit of them all, processed sugars. And then you throw in all the fast food restaurants that used to just be a treat, which is now how most Americans eat on a daily basis. And you have the perfect equation for a pre-diabetic nation. How did all this happen? Well, there are lots of reasons, but marketing is certainly one of them. When you watch a commercial, they have about 30 seconds to tell you that 1, you have a problem, and 2, here's the solution. In this case, you're hungry and we're gonna feed you fast and cheap, and that's what we wanna hear. Then you combine that with the fact that we can't sit still by ourselves anymore, that we need to be doing something to be distracted from feeling our feelings and thinking our thoughts, dealing with our broken relationships, our credit card debt, politics, and how we don't like to look in the mirror anymore. You see, all of our health and wellness problems stem from our emotional stability. If we're comfortable with ourselves, we have enough money, the kids are behaving properly, and we fit into our skinny jeans, it's much easier to control our eating habits. As soon as something is off or challenging or uncomfortable, we look for outside sources to keep us happy and fulfilled on the inside, which rarely works the way we want it to. It could be alcohol, drugs, shopping, or in this case, food. And if we don't find a way to deal with our emotions, we end up on a slippery slope. So this was me when I was 27 years old. I know what it's like to be unhappy, unhealthy, and unsure how to make the changes in my life to become happy and healthy again. Now this is me at 49 years old. I was able to change my life, and now I spend my life helping others to do the same. If you'd like to learn more about emotional regulation and how to manage your health and wellness, please reach out for a free session. No matter how hopeless you might feel, we'll get your life turned around. I guarantee it. Have a beautiful day. I'll talk to you soon.